Hello and welcome to today's Hurricane Outlook and discussion. Today we are going to be discussing two areas in the Eastern Pacific and the potential for an area in the Southern Gulf of Mexico over the next week. Taking a look at the Atlantic and Eastern Pacific today, we can see where the energy are highlighting the two areas. One in the far East Pacific and one closer to the coast of Mexico. I think this is the relevant circulation of 92E. I'm not really sure, so I had to check on that. But I don't think it is relevant. I think it's just a new circulation trying to develop. Not much really else to see in the Eastern and Western Caribbean. We do see that not in satellite imagery, but there is some Saharan dust now making its way into the Western Caribbean and more making its way across the Atlantic basin, but we can't see it on this satellite screen. So, if taking a look at the GFS model, so what we've been discussing over the past couple of days is this potential, this Central American gyre setting up across the Central America. But it's now starting to move a bit more northwards and now starting to set up in this area. So as we can go out on the model and we can see that there is this broad area of rotation, this Central American gyre setting up, and this particular frame we can see this area of vorticity trying to become more consolidated. Just for people who do not know what we're looking at, we are looking at the 850 millibar cyclonic vorticity, and these higher red spot here represent your more compact and consolidated area of vorticity. So moving out in time, we can start to see that that Central American gyre is still sitting in this general vicinity, but what we can start to see is these areas where we're going to start paying a bit more attention coming over the next 5 days. Is this area in the southern Gulf of Mexico and this area where they actually are currently highlighting the 40% of chances of developing in the Eastern Pacific. And we can see on the GFS run, as we move out in time, we do start to see some consolidation of some of the vorticity in the southern Gulf of Mexico and the Bay of Campeche. And if we carry on moving out in time, we do see that area of vorticity tries to become more consolidated, and in the GFS run of 12Z GFS run, we do have a tropical system in the southern Gulf of Mexico and one off the off the coast of Mexico. Sorry, I was going to say Eastern Pacific, but I thought the coast of Mexico would sound a bit better. If we take a general sounding of this, the background of this area, we do see that it has got some wind shear to be competing with this system. So I do suspect this may, if this does develop at this time, the mid-level center and possibly the low-level center will be not vertically stacked on each other. So what I'm talking about is the surface low that's sitting on the surface and the mid-level low sitting directly above. And what wind shear can do sometimes is, depending on what kind of wind shear we're talking about, let's just say for now we're dealing with some western wind shear, what will happen is these will become quite slanted. So they'll be on a diagonal kind of position, so they're not going to be vertically stacked, so it won't be able to become more become stronger because these two aren't vertically stacked. So moving out in time, we can start to see that the GFS develops a area of vorticity in the southern Gulf of Mexico and starts to push north. As we carry on the model run, we can see that Eastern Pacific system is now starting to come off our screen and moving to the northwest and maybe impacting Mexico. If we carry out and now turn our attention to the Gulf of Mexico, we can see that this storm doesn't really move. This system doesn't move anywhere real fast, and that's because the steering currents are going to be quite competing with each other, as we do have a high pressure to the west of the system and a high pressure in the to the east of the system, the Bermuda High and the high sitting across the states. So as we are now 276 hours out, we can see that the system isn't dealing with much wind shear now, with only 3 knots of wind shear. So at this time, the mid-level center and low-level center are probably stacked on each other. So I'd expect some more development of the system to become more stronger, and we see that it does become more uh, the vortex does become more consolidated and starts to move north and then potentially anywhere from east to west. I'm not going to discuss where this system could go because we are far, far away from any kind of system developing. So we'll just leave it at that. But there is some general agreement between the operational models, the Euro model and the GFSs. But it's the same idea. This Central American gyre sitting across Central America and Mexico, trying to develop 2 areas vorticity, one in the eastern Pacific and one in the southern Gulf of Mexico. The Euro isn't developing these two as faster as the GFS is, but it's the same idea. The Euro is bringing a broad area of rotation into the Gulf of Mexico, same with the eastern Pacific system. Moving out to this frame of the model run, because it does show that it doesn't develop as the GFS does into a power and tropical cyclone. It just stays broad and brings some heavy rainfall across some of the central, not central, the Gulf of Mexico coastline. Taking a look at the upper wind pattern, we can see right now there isn't much favorability in the upper pattern, as we've got some moderate strong wind shear across the southern Gulf of Mexico and moving into the Western Caribbean, Cuba. And if we carry on moving out in time, we can see that it really doesn't change until we get to where the GFS model shows at the 2 areas of vorticity. And as we move out on the GFS run, where we start to see that 2 systems, we can now start to see that the wind shear is still strong across this area, but this will be only dealing with around 22 knots of wind shear at this point. And as we move out further on the model run, we can only see that the upper wind pattern becomes a bit more favourable. As we take a sounding across here now, we can see that it's only dealing with 4 knots of wind shear at this time. So I'd suspect for early development in the Southern Gulf of Mexico, I wouldn't say won't see any, but we may see some kind of early development. But I'd say once it pushes more northwards, we'll be moving into a bit more favourable conditions. So I think we could see some more significant development. Not, when I say significant, I don't mean rapid intensification, but I'd see some more significant development happening with the system if this system does start to develop in the southern Gulf of Mexico. Taking a look at the European ensembles, we can see the same picture. We can start to see that we do see some model support from the ensembles that a system may try to get started up in the next 60 hours in the Eastern Pacific. And then as we move out of time further on these ensembles, we do see that there is some more support for a Southern Gulf of Mexico system to try and get started up in the Southern Gulf of Mexico and move north. But like I said, this is a long, long way away from happening. And as we can see, as we move out to the last of this frame, we can see that some ensembles do suggest some landfalls, but like I said, way too far, and we do not know. But what I would like to turn your attention to is nothing significant, but maybe we'll have to keep an eye on it, as anything is interesting to watch. But there is a pretty good tropical wave coming off the coast of Africa right now, and some of the ensembles are suggesting maybe some development with this system as it starts to move westwards. This cluster of ensemble groups here, but like I said, there's a lot of there's Saharan sitting across most of the Atlantic basin and moving into the Caribbean. So I don't think we'll see any significant development with this, or maybe none to nothing. Maybe just a tropical wave trying to develop, but can't because of the dry air and potential wind shear in that area. I haven't checked. We can't see it on this one, but on this particular area we're looking at. But there is some Definitely some model agreement that we'll have to keep an eye out is in the Eastern Pacific and the Southern Gulf of Mexico over the next coming days. If we take a look at the sea surface temperatures, I should have shown you this bit in the video, but what we can see is the Gulf of Mexico is now sitting rain widely from 27 to 29 degrees across the whole Gulf of Mexico, and the Gulf Stream is looking pretty good as well. Look at around 27 to 28 degrees. Western Caribbean also sitting around 29 to 29 degrees, and the Antilles around 28 degrees as well. So we are moving into the time of year now where we do need to start monitoring systems, and as we move deeper into the hurricane season, we'll have to pay attention to even more things as the the conditions will become more favourable as we go deeper into the hurricane season. So that's all for today's video. Sorry for not having another video out yesterday. It was an exam day yesterday, so I'm sorry. We will be going back to daily uploads from today, so I hope to see you in tomorrow's video. That's me, out.